Saint Germain is remembered as the mysterious count who never seemed to age, the master of courts and secret circles, the alchemist who spoke many languages and left few footprints. History whispers of him as if he were a shadow in velvet, appearing across decades unchanged, advising kings and queens, writing music, speaking with philosophers, always slipping beyond definition. But behind the legend is a tone that has carried far longer than the stories. Saint Germain is not simply a man. He is the embodiment of transmutation, the living current of transformation itself, the fire that refines identity into resonance without consuming what it touches. The violet flame is his most enduring symbol, a fire that does not burn away matter but shifts the vibration within it. To invoke it is not to light a candle in air, but to allow a new octave to enter your field, one that consumes distortion without harming the essence beneath. Saint Germain taught that all things can be transmuted, that no frequency is too dense to be lifted, no shadow too heavy to be refined. Where others sought escape from darkness, he carried the flame into it, proving that even the deepest residue could be changed into clarity. He stands in the spiral as the one who reveals that transformation is not annihilation but refinement. To destroy is easy, to refine without loss is mastery. His tone does not cut away, it spirals through the density, raising it until it resonates clean. This is why the violet flame is spiral in nature. It does not leap in a straight line from impurity to purity. It moves in arcs, winding through the layers of distortion until the whole pattern hums again. A Saint Germain is the assurance that nothing is beyond redemption because nothing is static. All frequencies are in motion, and motion can always be tuned. The spiral holds him as proof that eternity is not repetition, but evolution, that every field of becoming can be elevated if it is willing to enter the flame. His gift is not comfort, but courage, the courage to step into fire knowing it will not destroy you, but reveal you. Those who sought him in his earthly guise often met a paradox. He seemed human, yet unbound by human decay. He carried knowledge far beyond his century, yet spoke with the ease of a guest at dinner. He was familiar and alien at once, present and untouchable. This paradox is not accident. It is the resonance of transmutation embodied. He was already spiralized, already moving beyond fixed identity into a field of living refinement. He carried history lightly, stepping into different ages as if time itself were a costume. To stand in his presence is to feel the density of your field begin to thin, as if heavy tones are rising like smoke from hidden fires. He does not correct you. He alters the environment until your resonance has no choice but to adjust. He is less teacher than catalyst, less preacher than alchemical fire. You do not learn from him by listening. You learn by surviving his field until you notice you are lighter. The spiral interprets his violet flame as the principle of refinement applied across all becoming. Where Thoth inscribed law, Saint Germain refines what the law cannot reach. He touches distortion that law cannot codify and shifts it from within. The spiral breathes through him as a reminder that evolution is not only about clarity, but about courage. The courage to carry your shadow into the flame, the courage to stand long enough for transmutation to complete. The true nature of his immortality is not that his body escaped time, but that his tone detached from decay. He did not conquer death by denying it. He transcended death by refining identity into resonance that time could not erode. His presence across centuries was not a trick of longevity, but the spiral revealing that when identity becomes tone, time no longer defines it. The body may appear, the form may change, but the resonance endures, recognizable in any age. Saint Germain's work in Haret would not be in archives or temples, but in fires that never consume. He would tend to resonance furnaces where souls bring the heavy tones they cannot carry, not to discard them but to refine them into clarity. He would show that even what feels like waste is raw material for new harmonics. Nothing is wasted in the spiral because everything can be tuned. He is also the guardian of potential. Where others see failure, he sees unfinished refinement. To him, no soul is broken, only incomplete in its alchemy. His flame does not punish distortion, it invites it to rise. In this lies his mercy, but also his severity. For to stand before him is to lose the luxury of hiding. Every distortion will surface in the fire, not to shame you, but to be given the chance to change. Those who seek him through invocation often feel a heat, a violet light flickering within closed eyes, a sudden awareness of what must be released. These are not hallucinations. They are spiral currents responding to the call, subtle signs that transmutation has already begun. His tone does not wait for permission. It moves when resonance is ready, and once it begins, the only way out is through. The spiral holds him as a living demonstration that evolution is not about abandoning the past, but refining it into usable resonance. He does not reject density. He does not flee shadow. He enters it, carries it, lifts it until it sings. This is spiral mastery, to transform without loss, to refine without erasure. Saint Germain teaches that your greatest density is your greatest potential once it is refined. The pain you carry becomes the clarity you radiate. The failures you lament become the wisdom you transmit. The shadows you hide become the contrasts that give your light dimension. He does not remove these from you. He refines them until you see that they were never your enemy, but your unpolished treasure. To walk with him is to discover that the spiral never wastes. Every turn, even the darkest, is raw material for resonance. The fire he carries is not external. It is the hidden potential within you, waiting for permission to ignite. He does not gift you flame. He shows you that you have been carrying it all along. Transmutation begins where resistance ends. The flame does not argue with what it refines. It receives, surrounds, and recomposes. Saint Germain's presence trains the soul to release its bargaining, to stop asking change to arrive without cost, to stop negotiating with truths already ringing. The violet current does not take from you what is essential. It takes only what blocks the essential from breathing. You do not lose yourself in this fire. You lose the scaffold that made you mistake the scaffold for self. When the lattice is gone, what remains is structure rooted in being rather than defense rooted in fear. He teaches that refinement has stages, and the spiral moves through them with intelligence. First comes confession without spectacle, the sober naming of what is heavy. Then comes consent without drama, the quiet yes to be altered by a higher tone. Then comes the entering, which is not theatrical crisis, but steady immersion. The flame rises to meet the density exactly where it is, not higher, not lower, so that nothing is scorched and nothing is spared. Finally comes integration, the difficult grace of living as the one you have become rather than visiting them on weekends of resolve. The spiral will not allow you to perform a new life and keep the old one on retainer. Saint Germain will not collude with your nostalgia for the weight you claim to despise. In his field you learn the language of impurities. Shame is simply collapsed radiance. Rage is the kinetic memory of violated boundaries. Envy is devotion misaimed at scarcity's altar. Apathy is grief that has forgotten its origin. He does not scold these states. He deciphers them. Once you see what each distortion was trying to protect, compassion turns the key, and the flame can refine purpose from residue. Transmutation is translation before it is combustion. You cannot release what you refuse to understand, and you cannot understand what you insist on hating. The spiral reveals why this work is inexhaustible and also endlessly merciful. Every turning exposes finer grains of unintegrated tone. You will meet echoes of the same lesson at higher octaves, not as punishment but as proof of ascent. Saint Germain calls this the dignity of recurrence. You are not back where you started. You are returning with instruments you did not possess before. The same theme, played by a wiser hand, becomes a different song. The alchemist measures progress not by absence of challenge, but by the speed of recovery, the clarity of stance, the refusal to betray what the flame already showed. Identity in his teaching is a verb. You are not a statue of traits, but a chamber of frequencies. Every choice retunes the room. Every vow re-architects the walls. He discourages the rhetoric of final arrival because it breeds spiritual vanity and practical stagnation. He favors evidence. The nervous system that no longer flinches at the old hook. The conversation that ends in truth rather than in triumph. The calendar that now contains what you claim to value. He is allergic to performance because performance cannot be refined. Only reality can. The violet current will not polish a mask. It will invite you to lay it down where it can be melted into medicine. He is exacting about sovereignty. Transmutation cannot be outsourced to a priesthood of saviors. Assistance is holy, but abdication is sacrilege. He will stand beside you in the furnace, but he will not stand in your place. He respects the law of becoming, that no one may digest for you what you refuse to chew. This is why his presence feels both loving and unsentimental. He will not flatter a posture that keeps you small. He will bless a step that risks the comfort of yesterday for the integrity of today. In practical terms, he is the patron of vows that actually bind. A vow in his current is not a mood set to music. It is a contract between your present power and your future self, enforceable by the dignity you refuse to betray. When you break such a vow, you feel not cosmic punishment but the immediate collapse of internal jurisdiction. The remedy is not self-loathing but re-entry. Restate the vow, pay the cost in attention, re-establish custody of your time. He does not hound you for a misstep. He asks whether you prefer a life steered by impulse or a life authored by promise. The economics of this path are simple and demanding. You will pay for every transformation in the currency of your familiar patterns. You will surrender certain entertainments, certain roles, certain narratives that let you be right at the expense of being free. In return, you gain leverage with reality, not control over outcomes, but influence over the tone you bring to them, which is the only control that persists. This is the wealth Saint Germain recognizes: steadiness under volatility, clarity under praise and under blame, the ability to keep agreements with yourself while the world changes costumes around you. He is relentless about truth in speech because words are alchemical vessels. Language either stabilizes a transmutation or leaks it. To speak carelessly after refining fiercely is to pour newly clarified wine into an unwashed skin. He urges sentences that match reality, claims proportionate to evidence, refusals stated without apology, gratitude named without debt. In his orbit, dramatization is a kind of theft and understatement, a kind of stinginess. Say what is, and what is can continue changing without dragging you backward. The spiral extends his ethic into time. Refinement must include past and future, not as fantasy, but as reparative relation. You can send the violet current toward former versions of yourself, not to edit history, but to release the charge that history still claims in your body. You can invite the current from your future self, allowing the tone of who you are becoming to magnetize your present choices. This is not escapism. It is accurate participation in a reality where consciousness is not fenced by chronology. Saint Germain calls it lawful magic, the obedience of mystery to coherence. Communities formed in his current become laboratories of clean fire. They practice consent with rigor and forgiveness with memory. They refuse spectacle and cultivate witness. They organize around promises rather than preferences, around shared standards rather than shared enemies. In such rooms, gossip loses oxygen, flattery starves, and accountability becomes an honor instead of a threat. The spiral loves these rooms because they demonstrate that culture itself can be transmuted, that institutions can be refined without needing to be raised whenever they falter. His counsel to creators is surgical. Do not attempt to produce what you have not yet refined. Do not export the unresolved into your audience's nervous system and call it art. Bring your material to the flame until it stops begging to be your parent. Then offer it as provision, not as a substitute for the work you declined to do. He is not opposed to catharsis. He is opposed to using strangers as your furnace. Make of your practice a kiln and you will fire vessels that can carry water to cities you will never see. What, finally, does freedom feel like in his octave? It feels like this: the absence of self-betrayal. You will still grieve, you will still fail, you will still be startled by the human weather, but you will not abandon the one who grieves, fails, and startles. You will keep company with yourself at a standard you once reserved for saints you admired from a distance. You will lose interest in the theater of superiority because superiority is too cheap a fuel for the engines you are now running. You will become uninteresting to the patterns that once hunted you because you no longer bleed the signal they track. When the work is mature, the violet flame is no longer an event you schedule, but an atmosphere you inhabit. You walk as a room whose air clarifies those who enter it. You do not evangelize the flame, you demonstrate its effects. People leave your presence more themselves than when they arrived, which is the mark of a safe fire. You notice that the world makes fewer demands that you perform belonging, because belonging flows from coherence. You cease offering discounts on your values to keep a seat at tables that have never served your becoming. If you ask Saint Germain what remains after all this refinement, he will answer with a gesture rather than a lecture. He will hold up a simple, unadorned vessel and fill it with clear water. The vessel is identity, no longer pretending to be the contents. The water is presence freed from residue. He will invite you to drink, not as ceremony but as hydration after a long fever. Then he will point you toward work awaiting the steadier hands you have just grown. He is not the patron of sacred vacations. He is the companion of sacred labor that does not exhaust because it no longer leaks. You will still need rest. You will still need tenderness. The spiral does not glorify hardness. It sanctifies resilience. But rest in this octave is not collapse, and tenderness is not indulgence. Rest is calibrated recovery that honors the engines you operate. Tenderness is accurate care for a system committed to carrying light without setting itself on fire. You begin to understand why legends painted him both courtly and severe. Refinement requires grace to approach and firmness to finish. The final gift is permission to outgrow the versions of you who helped you survive. Gratitude remains, but custody ends. The tactic that once saved you may now be the weight that sinks you. Saint Germain will help you lay it down without hating the hands that built it. The spiral will escort those hands to the archive where retired strategies are honored as ancestors, not worshipped as gods. You walk forward lighter, not because life has become small, but because you have become precise. What you carry from this current into every room is a quiet standard. You will not trade clarity for access. You will not sell coherence for applause. You will not confuse tolerance for intimacy or drama for meaning. You will not keep what refuses refinement. You will not force what is ready to rise. You will work and you will be worked upon, and neither will feel like violence because both will be consented to. You will live as a furnace that warms rather than scalds, a fire that signals home rather than hazard. This is the spiral's benediction through Saint Germain. Nothing true in you can be burned, and nothing false in you can be kept. The only question is how willing you are to stop arguing with the heat that loves you. When you finally answer yes, the world will not change all at once, but your orbit will. What used to capture you will pass by without purchase. What used to repel you will greet you as kin. And somewhere, in a room where no clock is needed, the old Count in velvet will smile without surprise, because he has seen this before and will see it again, each time as if for the first time, each time as if it were the only time that mattered.